The eviction notice was a silent scream on Maria Chen's kitchen counter. A 3-day slow burn that felt like an eternity. Each time she passed it, the crimson ink throbbed with increasing urgency, a relentless countdown. 30 days, just a month stood between her, her 6-year-old daughter Sophia, and the cold, indifferent streets of Southern California, where dreams went to die and families dissolved into statistics. Maria stood frozen, a prisoner of her own anxiety, gazing out the window of their cramped, threadbare apartment. Her eyes were fixed on Sophia, her lifeline, her everything. The little girl, blissfully unaware of the impending storm, was lost in her own innocent world, staging a fantastical drama with her threadbare teddy bear on the worn living room floor. She hummed a tuneless melody picked up from school, her dark, springy curls bouncing with each exaggerated gesture, as she made the bear dance across the faded carpet. The worn threads seemed to mirror the fragility of their own lives, ready to unravel at any moment. At 34, Maria had envisioned a life far removed from this precarious existence. She dreamed of a stable job, offering security and purpose, a safe, welcoming home, a sanctuary from the world's harsh realities, maybe even a modest savings account, a shield against unforeseen hardships. Instead, she was 3 months behind on rent, constantly teetering on the edge of financial ruin. She worked grueling double shifts as a nurse's aide at the local hospital, sacrificing her own health and well-being, yet still falling short each month. Her body ached, her spirit frayed, but she pushed on, driven by an unwavering love for her daughter. The ghost of her ex-husband, Antonio, loomed large, his abandonment 2 years prior leaving behind a trail of debt and shattered promises. He was a phantom limb, the source of constant pain and a reminder of broken dreams. His absence was a gaping hole in their lives, a void she desperately tried to fill with her own strength and resilience. "Mama, are you okay?" Sophia's small, concerned voice cut through Maria's despair, dragging her back to the present. The innocent question pierced her heart like a shard of glass. Maria turned, forcing a smile, a fragile mask that felt like it might shatter at any moment. "Just thinking, mija. Finish your coloring." "Okay." Sophia, momentarily reassured, returned to her coloring books, the vibrant hues a stark contrast to the muted palette of their apartment, a symbol of the joy Maria fought so hard to preserve in their lives. That evening, after Sophia had finally drifted off to sleep, her face angelic in repose, Maria found herself hunched over her laptop, the harsh glare of the screen illuminating the tears streaming down her face. She was lost in a fruitless search through online rental listings, each one a painful reminder of their impossible situation. Everything was prohibitively expensive. Even the most dilapidated apartments in the most undesirable neighborhoods demanded first month's rent, last month's rent, and a hefty security deposit, a financial abyss she could never hope to cross. She'd already exhausted every other avenue, calling every homeless shelter in the city, only to be met with the same disheartening response. Waiting lists stretching 6 months long, a bureaucratic labyrinth that offered no immediate relief. Her phone buzzed, the sudden vibration startling her. It was a text message from her older sister, Carmen, who had moved to Phoenix years ago, seeking a fresh start and a new life. "I wish I could help, but with Miguel's medical bills we're barely making it ourselves. I'm so sorry, Maria." Maria typed back a brief, understanding reply, knowing her sister's own struggles were immense. They were both fighting their own battles, caught in a system that seemed designed to crush the vulnerable. Then, she set the phone down and buried her face in her hands, the weight of her circumstances crushing her. She had always been the responsible one, the steadfast rock in her family. She had made what she believed were good choices, worked tirelessly, and strived to do everything right. How had it all unraveled so completely, leaving her on the precipice of ruin? Where had she gone wrong? At 2 in the morning, sleep an elusive phantom, she found herself venturing into the murky depths of obscure classified ads online, a desperate act she'd never considered before. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, even old newspaper archives. She scrolled endlessly, her eyes scanning for anything that might offer a glimmer of hope. She didn't even know what she was looking for, just something, anything that might provide a way out of this seemingly inescapable nightmare. A sign, a miracle, a lifeline. Then she saw it, posted on a little-known regional classified site, dated just 3 days earlier. Vintage railway passenger car, 1938 Union Pacific, located on private property, Carson Valley, Nevada. As is condition, needs restoration. $500 or best offer. Serious inquiries only. Below the text was a grainy, poorly lit photograph of what appeared to be an old train car, its faded glory a stark contrast to the surrounding desolation. It sat forlornly on rusty tracks, seemingly abandoned amidst a backdrop of desert brush and distant, jagged mountains. The paint was peeling, the windows were cracked, and an air of neglect hung heavy around it. Yet, despite its dilapidated condition, there was something solid about it, something permanent, a sense of history and resilience that resonated deep within Maria's soul. It was a survivor just like her. Maria stared at the ad, her mind struggling to reconcile the absurdity of the situation. It was crazy, utterly insane. But she had $547 in her checking account, money she had painstakingly scraped together for this month's partial rent payment. Money that would be rendered meaningless once they were evicted anyway. A train car, an actual train car. It wasn't a traditional home, but it possessed the fundamental requirements. 4 walls and a roof. And it existed somewhere in Nevada, a mere few hours' drive from their cramped apartment in Southern California. Her finger trembled as it hovered over the phone number listed in the ad. It was the middle of the night, an ungodly hour to be contacting a stranger. But tomorrow she knew she had to call. She had to at least investigate this bizarre possibility. Because right now, this dilapidated $500 train car languishing in the Nevada desert was the only thing standing between her daughter and homelessness. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was all she had left. The next morning, after dropping Sophia off at school, Maria dialed the number, her heart pounding in her chest. A woman answered on the 4th ring, her voice gravelly and aged, tinged with a distinctive Western drawl. "Yeah? Hi, I'm calling about the train car. The one in Carson Valley?" There was a long, pregnant pause, the silence stretching taut with unspoken skepticism. "You serious? Most people think it's a joke." "I'm serious, very serious. Is it still available?" Yeah, it's available. Been trying to sell the damn thing for 2 years. You want to come see it?" Maria's heart hammered against her ribs. Yes, when can I come? Hell, come whenever. I'm here all the time. Got nowhere else to be. Name's Dorothy Blackwell. Call me when you're close, and I'll meet you at the property. That afternoon, Maria called in sick to work for the first time in 18 months. The guilt a dull ache in her stomach. She picked up Sophia early from school, spinning a tale of a surprise adventure to mask her underlying desperation. She pointed their battered Toyota Corolla east, toward the promise and uncertainty of Nevada. The landscape blurred past, each mile a step closer to the unknown. Sophia, easily swept up in the excitement of the moment, chattered animatedly about missing school and embarking on a spontaneous road trip. Where are we going, Mama? To see something special, baby. Something that might become our new home. A new home? Like a new apartment? Maria glanced at her daughter in the rearview mirror, her heart aching with a mixture of hope and apprehension. Something different, you'll see. The drive took them through the sprawling, suffocating suburbs of Southern California, then snaked up into the majestic mountains, finally descending into the vast, desolate beauty of the Nevada desert. The landscape underwent a dramatic transformation, from the relentless urban sprawl to an endless expanse of sky and ancient rock formations, painted in shades of rust and gold by the relentless sun. The air grew dry and thin, carrying the scent of sagebrush and the promise of something new. Carson Valley materialized like a mirage, a small, unassuming cluster of buildings nestled between towering mountain ranges, where sprawling ranches spread across valleys dotted with sagebrush. Following Dorothy's vague directions, Maria turned onto a dusty dirt road that wound through the scrubland for nearly 2 miles, each bump and rut a testament to its neglected state. The car groaned and protested, but Maria pressed on, driven by a desperate hope. And then there it was. Even from a distance, Maria could see it, a relic of a bygone era. The train car sat on a section of track that seemed to lead nowhere, its wheels firmly planted on the rails, surrounded by a sea of wild grass and tenacious desert flowers. It was a forgotten monument to a time when travel was an adventure, not just a means to an end. As they drew closer, she could discern more details, appreciate the faded grandeur of its design. It was longer than she had anticipated, perhaps 50 feet, with tall, arched windows lining both sides and a gracefully curved roof that spoke of an era when trains were not merely utilitarian modes of transportation, but symbols of luxury and artistry. The metal framework was intricately designed, riveted and bolted together with precision and care. The paint, once a deep, regal blue with elegant gold trim, had faded to a ghostly azure, peeling away in patches to reveal the underlying rust, a testament to the relentless passage of time and the harsh desert elements. Weathered and worn, it stood in silent defiance of the elements. Yet, despite the obvious decay, the structure appeared remarkably solid, its frame unbowed, its wheels steadfastly holding its ground on the tracks. It was a testament to the craftsmanship of a bygone era, a survivor against all odds. Mama, is that a train? Sophia's voice was filled with unadulterated wonder, her eyes wide with disbelief. Yes, baby, that's a train car. A beat-up pickup truck was already parked nearby, its paint faded and its tires caked with dust. As they pulled up, a woman emerged from the truck, her movements slow but deliberate. She was likely in her late 70s, her face etched with the indelible marks of time and the harsh desert sun. She wore faded jeans, worn leather boots, and a denim shirt, her attire practical and unassuming. She was a study in contrasts, a blend of strength and vulnerability. Her silver hair was pulled back in a braid, emphasizing the sharp angles of her face and the piercing intensity of her gaze. Her eyes were like chips of flint, sharp and knowing. You must be Maria. I'm Dorothy, she said, extending a calloused hand in greeting. And who's this? This is my daughter, Sophia. Dorothy's stern expression softened as she smiled at the little girl, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Well, Sophia, you want to see inside a real train car? Sophia nodded vigorously, her enthusiasm infectious. The door was on the side of the car, its metal cold to the touch. Dorothy produced a ring of old brass keys, their surfaces worn smooth with age. This thing belonged to my late husband, Harold. He bought it at an auction back in 1987, paid $800 for it. Thought he was going to restore it, turn it into some kind of guest house or studio. That was 38 years ago. The door protested with a loud, grating screech as it swung open, its hinges screaming from decades of disuse and neglect. A wave of stale air washed over them, carrying with it the scent of decay and forgotten memories. The hinges cried out in protest. The smell hit Maria first, a musty, thick odor, reminiscent of old books and forgotten time, a scent that spoke of abandonment and the slow, relentless process of decomposition. But underneath that, there was something else, a faint, lingering fragrance of aged wood and polished metal, a hint of history preserved in isolation. It was a symphony of scents, a combination of decay and lingering beauty. Inside, Maria's breath caught in her throat, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer unexpected beauty and faded grandeur of the interior. 2 rows of plush bench seats lined both walls, their leather cracked and worn but still remarkably intact, hinting at the opulent comfort they had once provided. The ceiling was gracefully curved and paneled with dark, rich wood that had somehow miraculously survived the ravages of time and neglect. The wood gleamed softly. At the far end of the car was a small, enclosed area that appeared to have once served as a porter station or service area, complete with built-in cabinets and a tiny, worn counter. It was a compact space but efficiently designed. Afternoon light streamed through the grimy windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air, and casting everything in a warm, golden glow. The dust motes danced like tiny stars. Despite the obvious decay and the pervasive air of abandonment, Maria could easily envision what this place had once been. A luxurious passenger car from the golden age of rail travel, when train journeys were not merely a means of transportation, but grand events, unforgettable experiences, and thrilling adventures. It's got history. This one? Dorothy said, her voice softening as she watched Maria's face, gauging her reaction. Harold researched it. This was part of the city of Los Angeles route. Ran between Chicago and LA in the 30s and 40s. Carried movie stars, businessmen, families heading west to start new lives. Maria walked slowly down the center aisle, her fingers tracing the worn fabric of the seats, feeling a connection to the countless passengers who had once sat in this very spot, their hopes and dreams as varied as the landscapes they traversed. She imagined the laughter, the tears, the secrets whispered within these walls. Sophia had already climbed onto one of the benches, bouncing gently and giggling with delight, lost in her own world of imagination. "We, all aboard," she shouted, pretending to be the conductor. "The structure's solid," Dorothy continued, her voice regaining its characteristic gruffness. Harold reinforced the undercarriage before he lost interest. "There's a water hookup." He ran a line from the well on the property. "Electricity too, though I can't vouch for the wiring. And see that?" She pointed to a small, cast-iron wood stove nestled near the porter's area, its surface coated with a layer of rust. "Harold installed that. Said it would keep the place warm in winter." "What about the land?" Maria asked, her practical nurse's mind already racing, calculating possibilities and anticipating potential problems. "If I buy the train car, what happens to it sitting here?" Dorothy crossed her arms, studying Maria with sharp, assessing eyes. "You planning to live in it?" There was no point in attempting to conceal the truth. "Yes, my daughter and I are being evicted. I need something I can afford, and this is all I can afford." Dorothy's expression softened, the lines around her eyes deepening with a mixture of understanding and compassion. "Thought it might be something like that. The only folks who look at this ad seriously are the desperate ones." She walked to one of the windows, her gaze drifting out over the vast expanse of the desert valley. The distant mountains seemed to whisper ancient secrets. "This land's mine, 20 acres. My kids want me to sell it, move into some fancy retirement home in Reno, but I'm not ready for that yet." She turned back to Maria, her eyes locking with hers. "Tell you what, you buy the train car for $500 and you can keep it here. I'll charge you $50 a month for the land rental. That includes water and electricity. You can stay as long as you need to, as long as I own this property." Maria's throat tightened with emotion, her voice catching in her chest. $50 a month. She spent more than that on gasoline each week, just commuting to and from work. "Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking?" Dorothy retorted, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "Besides," she gestured around the train car, her gaze sweeping over its faded grandeur. "Harold would have liked knowing someone was actually using this thing, making it a home instead of letting it rot into the desert." Maria turned to Sophia, who was now fully immersed in her fantasy, pretending to be a train conductor, making choo-choo sounds and waving enthusiastically at imaginary passengers. Her daughter looked happier than she had been in months, her face radiant with joy. The train car had sparked her imagination. "I'll take it," Maria said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. Dorothy smiled, the lines deepening around her eyes, transforming her weathered face into a roadmap of life experiences. "Good. Got the title in my truck. We can do the paperwork right now if you want." 30 minutes later, Maria held a handwritten bill of sale and a key ring with 3 tarnished brass keys in her trembling hands. She had just spent $500, nearly every cent she possessed, on an abandoned train car in the middle of the Nevada desert. It was undeniably the craziest thing she had ever done in her life. And yet, somehow, it felt like the first right decision she had made in years, a defiant act of hope in the face of overwhelming despair. As Dorothy drove away in her pickup, promising to return the next day to show Maria how the water and electrical systems worked, Maria and Sophia stood beside their new home, their silhouettes stark against the vast, unforgiving landscape. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the desert in a breathtaking array of orange and purple hues, casting the train car's long shadow across the dusty ground. "Mama," Sophia said, slipping her small hand into Maria's. "Is this really ours? Like we can really live here?" Maria squeezed her daughter's hand, her heart swelling with love and determination. "Yes, baby, this is really ours." Sophia's face lit up with recognition, her imagination ignited. "It's like the Boxcar Children." Maria smiled, her spirits lifting at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Yes, mija, it's like the Boxcar Children. We're going to have the best adventure ever," Sophia exclaimed, her voice filled with pure, unadulterated joy. That night, they slept in the train car for the first time. Maria had brought sleeping bags from the car, and they spread them out on 2 of the bench seats, creating a makeshift bed. The wood stove, miraculously, still functioned, and she managed to get a small fire going, its warmth pushing back the desert cold and creating a cozy, comforting atmosphere. The fire crackled and popped, filling the train car with a warm, inviting glow. Through the cracked windows, Maria could see more stars than she had ever seen in her life, an infinite canvas of light, unmarred by the city's suffocating pollution. The stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth. Sophia fell asleep quickly, exhausted by the day's excitement and the novelty of their surroundings. But Maria lay awake for hours, her mind racing, overwhelmed by a mixture of exhaustion and apprehension. She thought about everything she would have to do to transform this dilapidated train car into a habitable home. The tasks seemed endless. She would need to clean the entire car, scrubbing away decades of accumulated grime. She would have to replace the broken windows, sealing out the harsh desert elements. She needed to figure out how to make the water and electricity work reliably, ensuring they had access to basic necessities. She would have to find work nearby, perhaps at the small hospital Dorothy had mentioned was in the next town over, providing her with a stable income. And, of course, she would have to enroll Sophia in the local school, ensuring her daughter's education continued uninterrupted. The list was daunting, overwhelming, a seemingly insurmountable mountain of tasks. But for the first time in months, it didn't feel entirely impossible. It felt like a plan, a tangible path forward, a chance to rebuild their lives from the ground up. As she finally drifted off to sleep, lulled by the crackling of the fire and the gentle rocking of the train car, Maria's hand brushed against something on the wall beside her bench seat. In the dim light, she could barely make it out, but it felt like carved letters or numbers, worn smooth by decades of countless hands touching the same spot. They were faint and almost indiscernible. She made a mental note to examine it more closely in the morning light. For now, sleep was calling, and tomorrow would undoubtedly bring enough challenges without dwelling on mysterious carvings in old train cars. What Maria didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have known, was that the seemingly insignificant marking she had touched was a carefully crafted notation, painstakingly carved by someone who had hidden something precious within this very train car 86 years ago. A map, a clue, a secret, something that had waited through decades of silence and obscurity for exactly the right person, someone desperate enough and brave enough to claim this unlikely sanctuary. The train car held more than just history and faded grandeur. It held secrets, long-buried truths that would soon be brought to light. And Maria Chun, in her desperate attempt to save her daughter from homelessness, had unwittingly purchased a mystery that would transform everything they thought they knew about survival, treasure, and the unexpected places where hope can hide. The adventure had just begun, but that revelation would have to wait, simmering beneath the surface until the opportune moment. For tonight, a desperate mother and her daughter slept peacefully in a train car that had once carried dreamers across the country during the depths of the Great Depression. Blissfully unaware that they were about to become an integral part of its enduring legend, they were unknowingly stepping into a story that had been waiting to be told. The first week in the train car proved to be far more challenging than Maria had initially imagined, a stark departure from the romantic notion Sophia had embraced. The reality of living in an 86-year-old passenger car in the heart of the Nevada desert was vastly different from the idealized image of a whimsical adventure. It was a constant struggle against the elements, against the limitations of their resources, against the weight of their past. There was no running water in the traditional sense. Dorothy showed Maria how to operate the hand pump connected to the well, a laborious process that required considerable effort. Each pump brought a stream of cool, but metallic-tasting water. Maria spent her first 3 days hauling buckets of water for drinking, cooking, and washing, her muscles aching with each trip. She developed blisters on her hands and a persistent ache in her lower back. The electricity worked, but barely, providing just enough power to illuminate a small lamp and charge their phones, offering little else in the way of modern conveniences. There was no television, no air conditioning, no microwave. The bathroom situation was perhaps the most challenging adjustment. Dorothy had generously lent them a portable camping toilet and directed Maria to the outhouse, a rickety wooden structure located about 50 yards from the train car, its primitive nature a stark contrast to the comforts they had previously taken for granted. It was a dark, spider-infested hole in the ground. For a 6-year-old accustomed to flush toilets and running water, this presented a significant and unpleasant adjustment. "Mama, I don't like the potty outside," Sophia complained on their third morning, her voice filled with a mixture of disgust and apprehension. "It smells bad, and it's dark." "I know, baby, but we'll get used to it," Maria said, her voice filled with forced cheerfulness. "It's an adventure, remember?" But Sophia's initial enthusiasm was clearly waning, replaced by a growing sense of disillusionment. She missed her friends, her familiar routine, her old school. She even missed their cramped apartment, which, despite its problems, had provided a sense of familiarity and comfort. Maria could see the realization dawning on her daughter. This wasn't a fun camping trip. This was their new, unsettling reality. The weight of their situation pressed down on them both. During those first few arduous days, Maria threw herself into the task of making the train car livable, channeling her energy and anxiety into tangible improvements. She attacked the grime and dust with ferocity, determined to create a safe and clean environment for Sophia. She scrubbed every surface with borrowed cleaning supplies, removing layers of accumulated dust, grime, and cobwebs. She meticulously duct-taped plastic sheeting over the broken windows, desperately trying to seal out the cold desert nights. The plastic flapped and billowed in the wind. She diligently organized their few remaining belongings into the built-in cabinets and storage areas, creating a semblance of order amidst the chaos. Slowly but surely, the train car began to transform, shedding its image as an abandoned relic and taking on the character of a quirky, unconventional home. It became a testament to Maria's resilience. Maria hung sheets as makeshift room dividers, creating a small, private sleeping area for Sophia near the rear of the car and a separate space for herself, offering a degree of privacy in their shared living space. The sheets billowed softly in the breeze, creating a sense of intimacy. She arranged Sophia's toys on one of the bench seats, creating a designated play area, a small oasis of normalcy amidst the unfamiliar surroundings. The toys brought a splash of color to the otherwise muted interior. She set up a small camping stove in the porter's area, transforming it into a rudimentary kitchen, a place to prepare meals and nourish their bodies and spirits. The smell of cooking food filled the train car with a sense of warmth and comfort. On the fourth day, Dorothy returned, her pickup truck laden with an assortment of supplies, a testament to her quiet generosity and unwavering support. She was a true friend, a beacon of hope in their darkest hour. She brought old blankets, a kerosene heater, canned goods, a small electric hot plate, and even some faded curtain fabric, her offerings a lifeline in their desperate situation. The supplies were a welcome and much-needed gift. "Figured you could use these," Dorothy said gruffly, her eyes avoiding Maria's, as if embarrassed by her own kindness. "Had most of it sitting in my barn anyway. You don't have to do this," Maria protested, her voice cracking with emotion, tears blurring her vision. "You've already been so incredibly kind. We're imposing. Ain't charity, girl," Dorothy retorted, though a hint of tenderness softened the edges of her voice. "It's neighborly, plain and simple. Besides," she glanced around the aged train car, a faint smile playing on her lips as she registered Maria's relentless efforts to scrub away decades of grime. "Harold would have been pleased as punch to see someone bringin' this place back to life. Been too long since these walls heard laughter, only the whisper of the wind and the howl of coyotes." As Dorothy helped Maria hang the simple, homespun curtains, miraculously transforming the grimy windows into something resembling a human habitation, she inquired with genuine concern. "You got any work lined up? I have a phone interview scheduled for tomorrow morning with the hospital in Minden. It's a nurse's aide position, the same kind of work I did back in California." Maria's hopes were cautiously high. "Good hospital, that. My daughter, Rebecca, works there in administration. I'll put in a good word for you, no harm in that." True to her word, Dorothy did exactly that. And thanks to Dorothy's quiet influence, Maria landed the job. The pay was undeniably less than what she had been earning in the Golden State, but thankfully, the cost of living in this quiet corner of Nevada was significantly lower, especially now that their housing expenses were a manageable $50 a month. Her starting date was set 2 weeks out, giving her ample time to properly enroll Sophia in the local elementary school and begin to truly settle into their new, albeit unconventional, life. But it was during that crucial settling-in period, on a bright, cloudless Saturday morning, precisely 11 days after they had officially moved into the train car, that Maria stumbled upon a discovery that would irrevocably alter the trajectory of their lives. She was meticulously cleaning the far end of the train car, the area that had once served as the porter's station, scrubbing the worn surfaces with renewed vigor and determination. Sophia was outside, safely playing in the sun-drenched sagebrush under Dorothy's ever-watchful gaze. The older woman had stopped by earlier with a gift of fresh eggs from her hens and had kindly offered to watch Sophia for a few hours, allowing Maria to deep clean the train car without interruption. A small act of kindness that Maria deeply appreciated. Maria had carefully moved all the portable items out of the porter's area and was scrubbing the built-in counter when she noticed something peculiar. Something that just didn't seem quite right. The counter had a small cabinet nestled beneath it, ostensibly for storage, but the interior dimensions of the cabinet inexplicably didn't seem to correspond with the exterior dimensions of the counter itself. The cabinet was only about 8 inches deep on the inside, but the counter was a solid 14 inches thick. Intrigued, she gently knocked on the back wall of the cabinet, her knuckles rapping against the aged wood. The sound was undeniably hollow, resonating with an empty echo. Her heart rate quickened, a sense of anticipation building within her. She began to examine the cabinet more closely, her fingertips tracing every seam and joint, searching for any subtle sign of an opening or a hidden mechanism. On the left side, near the floor, she discovered a tiny brass button, so tarnished with age and so flush with the wood that it was almost invisible, easily overlooked in the dim light. Maria tentatively pressed the button, her fingers trembling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Nothing happened. She pressed harder, applying a bit more force. Still absolutely nothing. Then, acting on a sudden, inexplicable instinct, she pressed and firmly held the button, while simultaneously pulling gently on the back wall of the cabinet. To her utter astonishment, the wall swung silently forward on hidden hinges, revealing a secret compartment, a concealed space that had remained hidden and undisturbed for decades. Maria's breath caught sharply in her throat, her senses overwhelmed by the sudden revelation. The hidden space was perhaps 6 inches deep and ran the full width of the counter, a discreet hiding place, perfect for valuables or long-held secrets. Inside, covered in a thick layer of dust accumulated over decades of neglect, were several carefully wrapped items, bundled in oilcloth, their contents a complete and utter mystery waiting to be unveiled. With trembling hands, Maria reached into the hidden compartment and carefully extracted the first bundle, her fingers brushing against the rough, slightly sticky texture of the aged oilcloth. The oilcloth crackled and snapped softly as she carefully unwrapped it, revealing a worn leather portfolio, its surface embossed with elegant gold lettering, now faded with age. Union Pacific Railway employee records. Inside the portfolio were various documents, personnel files, and old employment records dating all the way back to the 1930s, a fascinating window into a bygone era. But these weren't just ordinary records. They held within them a far more significant story, a tale waiting to be told. As Maria nervously read through them, her eyes widening with each passing page, she began to grasp the magnitude of her discovery, the immense weight of the secret she had unwittingly stumbled upon. The documents detailed the theft, a meticulously planned and expertly executed scheme involving the massive theft of gold bullion that had been transported on Union Pacific trains between 1936 and 1938. According to the records, someone high up in the company, someone with both access and authority, had been systematically stealing small amounts of gold from official shipments. The amounts were deliberately kept small, a few ounces here and there, so as not to raise any immediate alarm or suspicion, but over time, they had accumulated to a staggering fortune, a king's ransom in stolen gold. The documents included original shipping manifests with discrepancies meticulously highlighted, internal memos expressing growing concern about the unexplained losses, and, most damning of all, a meticulously kept ledger, written in someone's neat, precise handwriting, detailing every theft, meticulously recording the names, dates, amounts, and the specific locations where the stolen gold was being hidden. Maria carefully set the portfolio aside, her mind reeling from the shocking implications of her discovery. She reached for the second bundle, her fingers still trembling as she carefully unwrapped it. This one contained photographs, black and white images capturing scenes from a bygone era, showing this very train car, when it was brand new and gleaming, a proud symbol of luxury and progress. In several of the photos, a man in a porter's crisp uniform stood proudly beside the car, his posture erect, his face beaming with a warm smile. He was an African-American man, perhaps in his 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile, exuding an unmistakable aura of warmth and integrity. On the back of one photo, someone had written in elegant cursive, Thomas Washington, Chief Porter, City of Los Angeles Line, 1936. The third bundle felt noticeably heavier than the others, its weight a physical manifestation of the gravity of its contents. Maria's hands shook so badly that she almost dropped it, her nerves stretched to the absolute breaking point. It was a letter carefully folded and sealed, written in the same neat, precise handwriting as the meticulous ledger. To whoever finds this, it began, its words resonating with a profound sense of urgency and desperation. My name is Thomas Washington, and I am recording this truth because someone needs to know what happened here. I have been a Pullman porter for 17 years, an honest man serving with honesty, but I have discovered a terrible secret, and in exposing it, I have made powerful enemies. Mr. James Peton, regional manager of precious metals transport for Union Pacific, has been stealing gold for over 2 years. I discovered this by accident when I noticed discrepancies in the shipping documents I was required to sign. The amounts were small, a few ounces here and there, but over time it added up to thousands of ounces, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I reported this to company leadership, believing they would investigate. Instead, Mr. Peton accused me of the theft. As a black man with no social standing against a wealthy white executive, I knew I would not receive justice through official channels. They would believe him, not me. So I gathered evidence. I copied documents, recorded dates and amounts, and collected proof of his crimes. I planned to take it to federal authorities in San Francisco, but Mr. Peton learned of my intentions. He has threatened my life. I fear he will succeed. I am hiding this evidence in the train car where I have spent so many years serving passengers, hoping that one day someone will find it. Someone who will ensure the truth is told. I only hope I live long enough to see justice done. If you are reading this, I am likely dead. Please take this evidence to the authorities. Make sure Thomas Washington's name is cleared and James Peton faces consequences for his crimes. With hope and desperation. Thomas Washington. April 17, 1938. Maria sat back heavily, her mind reeling, struggling to process the enormity of what she had just read. The letter was dated 87 years ago, a relic of a distant and seemingly unimaginable past. Whatever had happened to Thomas Washington, it had happened long before she was even born. But the evidence was right here, tangible proof of a crime that had been hidden for nearly 9 decades. a secret that had been patiently waiting to be unearthed. She reached for the fourth and final bundle, her hands trembling uncontrollably. It felt heavier than the others, its weight hinting at the precious cargo it contained. When she unwrapped the oilcloth, she gasped softly, her breath catching in her throat. Inside was a small wooden box, about the size of a hardcover book, its surface meticulously crafted with exquisite detail. The wood was dark and polished to a high sheen, inlaid with delicate pieces of mother-of-pearl in an intricate geometric pattern, its beauty a testament to the artistry of a bygone era. There was a tiny brass lock on the front, its mechanism tarnished with age. Maria examined the lock, immediately recognizing it as an old-fashioned design, requiring a small, specialized key. She looked back into the hidden compartment, her fingers carefully probing along all the surfaces, searching for any sign of a key. In the upper right corner, pressed snugly into a tiny notch, she found it. A small brass key, nearly black with tarnish, its surface smooth from years of being handled. The key fit the lock perfectly, sliding smoothly into place with a satisfying click. When Maria gently opened the box, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest, she found a small, leather-bound notebook and, beneath it, carefully wrapped in soft, protective cloth, something that glinted alluringly gold even in the dim light, radiating wealth and untold power. Gold coins. The box was filled to the brim with gleaming gold coins, their surfaces seemingly untouched by the relentless march of time. Maria counted them carefully, her fingers tracing their intricate designs. 25 coins, each clearly marked with the date and denomination. American gold eagles from 1936 and 1937, their faces bearing the iconic image of Lady Liberty. Each coin contained precisely 1 ounce of pure gold, a precious metal coveted throughout history. At current gold prices, which Maria knew from recent news reports was hovering around $2,000 per ounce, these 25 coins were worth approximately $50,000, a life-changing sum of money that could solve all her immediate problems and secure Sophia's future. But it was the notebook that truly captured Maria's attention, that made her breath stop completely. Inside, penned in Thomas Washington's meticulous script, was a treasure map of sorts, a comprehensive catalog detailing each and every location where James Petton had secreted away the purloined gold. A network of hiding places stretched across Nevada and California, forgotten train depots, sprawling warehouses, discreet private estates. But one entry, circled emphatically and marked with a vibrant red star, stood out in stark contrast. Primary cache, 847 ounces, on property near Carson City, Nevada. Coordinates enclosed. Sword, buried 6 feet deep. Marker, 3 stones arranged in a triangular formation. Maria's breath hitched sharply in her throat. With trembling hands, she snatched her phone and launched her mapping app, her fingers fumbling with the screen. She punched in the coordinates with growing anticipation. Her heart leaped into her throat, threatening to choke her. The location was a mere half-mile away, practically spitting distance from where she stood. It sat squarely on the property line bordering Dorothy's land. Thomas Washington hadn't just concealed evidence of the theft. He'd unearthed Petton's mother lode, the lion's share of the stolen gold, and meticulously documented its precise whereabouts. 847 ounces of gold. At a staggering $2,000 an ounce, that was a colossal sum. A king's ransom, nearly $1. 7 million, just lying there waiting to be discovered. Maria was completely paralyzed, a statue sculpted from sheer disbelief. She sat amidst the scattered documents and gleaming gold coins, her mind struggling to grasp the enormity of her incredible discovery. She'd sunk a paltry $500 into a dilapidated train car, a desperate gamble to keep her daughter from the precipice of homelessness. And now, she'd stumbled upon a fortune, a treasure hoard that had patiently slumbered for 87 long years, waiting for the touch of a destined hand. But it was more than just the potential wealth, the glittering gold. Woven into the faded ink and yellowed paper was the tragic story of Thomas Washington himself, a man who, against all odds, had dared to do what was right, and who had paid the ultimate price for his unwavering courage. Doubt had no purchase in Maria's mind. Pemberton had silenced him, snuffed out his light. The evidence Washington possessed would have obliterated Pemberton's reputation, his entire privileged world. But then a cruel twist of fate had occurred. He had never been able to reclaim his stolen gold. Had he been imprisoned for some other misdeed? Had death claimed him unexpectedly? Had the hiding places become inaccessible, swallowed by the relentless march of time and progress? Whatever the reason, the gold had remained entombed for decades, until a desperate, resourceful single mother had purchased an abandoned train car, and in its decaying walls, uncovered a secret that would alter her destiny forever. Maria's initial impulse was primal. Grab Sophia, gun the engine, and start digging, the adrenaline coursing through her veins like liquid fire. But she wrestled her racing thoughts under control. This was larger than some mere treasure hunt, some fleeting moment of financial salvation. This was history, etched in paper and precious metal. This was tangible evidence of a heinous crime, and irrefutable proof of Thomas Washington's unwavering bravery in exposing it. She needed reinforcements, someone she could trust implicitly. Dorothy. Dorothy would possess the wisdom, the grounded perspective, to navigate this uncharted territory. With painstaking care, Maria rewrapped everything, save for Washington's letter and the small wooden box holding the gold coins, a tangible reminder of the fortune that lay just beyond her grasp. She meticulously photographed every document with her phone, backing the images up to the cloud, a digital safeguard against the vagaries of fate. Then, she secreted everything back inside the hidden compartment, her fingers pressing firmly on the brass button, sealing the panel shut. She emerged from the train car, blinking in the bright afternoon sun. Dorothy sat in a folding chair, her gaze fixed lovingly on Sophia, as she chased a lizard through the fragrant sagebrush. Dorothy, I need to show you something I found in the train car. The older woman's eyes, etched with the wisdom of years, studied Maria's face intently. You look like you've seen a ghost, girl. What you find? Not a ghost, a treasure, and a story that needs to be told. Dorothy didn't hesitate for a moment. She immediately dialed her daughter, Rebecca, who arrived within the hour. Rebecca, a hospital administrator by trade, possessed a law degree and, according to Dorothy, an almost unnerving level-headedness when faced with complex, high-stakes situations. The 3 women, plus Sophia, placated with crayons and paper, found themselves crammed into the confines of the train car. Maria, her voice trembling slightly, unveiled her discovery, beginning with Thomas Washington's letter, its poignant words hanging heavy in the air. Then came the documents, the carefully composed photos, the meticulous ledger, and finally, the wooden box, its golden contents gleaming under the dim light. She shared the coordinates, the key to unlocking a fortune. Rebecca read through everything twice, her brow furrowed in deep concentration, her expression growing increasingly grave with each passing page. When she finally finished, she leaned back against the wall, releasing a long, slow breath. "And Maria, do you understand what you have here?" "I think so. Evidence of a crime from 1938, and a map to stolen gold. It's more than that. This is a piece of history. Thomas Washington was a black man in the 1930s who tried to fight corruption and was almost certainly killed for it. His story deserves to be told. He deserves justice even 87 years late." "But what about the gold?" Maria asked, her mind flashing images of her daughter, of their precarious existence, of mounting medical bills and looming school expenses, of a future that had seemed so bleak just days ago. Rebecca met her gaze, her expression unwavering. "The gold, if it's really there, and if it can be legally recovered, could be yours. But we need to do this the right way. We need to contact historians, possibly law enforcement, definitely an attorney who specializes in this kind of find. The last thing you want is to dig up treasure and then lose it to legal challenges. How long will that take? Could be months, could be years. But if we do it right, you'll be able to keep what's rightfully yours, and Thomas Washington's story will be told properly." Dorothy spoke, her voice firm. "Remember those coordinates Thomas wrote down? They're on the old Henderson Ranch, been abandoned for 30 years. Property's tied up in some kind of estate dispute. Nobody's allowed on it. Which means," Rebecca interjected, "we definitely can't just go dig it up. We need legal access, proper permits, archaeological oversight, probably." She offered Maria a sympathetic smile, sensing her disappointment. "I know it's not what you want to hear, but think long-term. Do this right and you'll have not just the money, but a clear legal claim to it. Do it wrong and you could end up with nothing and possibly facing charges for trespassing or theft." Maria knew deep down that Rebecca was absolutely right, but patience felt like an unbearable burden when financial security was literally buried in the ground, a mere half-mile away. Over the next 3 weeks, Rebecca orchestrated a flurry of phone calls and emails, coordinating with a historian at the Nevada State Museum, a professor of American history at the University of Nevada, Reno, and an attorney who specialized in the arcane field of treasure trove law. They meticulously authenticated the documents, confirmed that Thomas Washington had indeed been employed as a porter on the City of Los Angeles line, and unearthed a chilling detail. He had been reported missing in May of 1938, a mere month after the date etched on his letter. James Petton, the man Thomas had accused, had died in 1952, wealthy and respected. His crimes buried with him, never exposed. Until now. The story exploded, a wildfire of headlines spreading rapidly across the media landscape. First, it was local. Hidden documents reveal 1938 gold theft and Porter's heroic stand. Then, the story went regional, then national, a media-feeding frenzy. Within a week, Maria's train car was surrounded by news vans, a chaotic circus of flashing lights and probing microphones. She found herself being interviewed by major networks, recounting the incredible discovery, with a mixture of disbelief and dawning hope. The wooden box containing the 25 gold coins was authenticated, its value confirmed, and after a thorough legal review, deemed to be Maria's property as the rightful finder. She sold them for a staggering $52,000, enough to purchase the train car property outright from Dorothy, undertake much-needed repairs and improvements, and, for the first time in her life, possess a financial cushion, a safety net against the unknown. But the real prize, the 847 ounces Petton had buried, remained tantalizingly out of reach, still entombed underground, patiently waiting to be claimed. The legal process to secure access to the Henderson property dragged on for 4 long months, a tortuous labyrinth of paperwork and bureaucratic hurdles. During that time, Maria landed a job at the hospital, a steady source of income. Sophia enrolled in school, making friends and thriving in a structured environment. Their train car home, once a symbol of desperation, became increasingly comfortable, a haven of warmth and security, as Maria poured her newfound financial stability into upgrades and renovations. Dorothy became like a grandmother to Sophia, filling her days with stories of the desert, its plants, its creatures, its history. Rebecca remained a steadfast friend and advocate, guiding Maria through the treacherous waters of the legal and media storms. And every night, before drifting off to sleep, Maria would reread Thomas Washington's letter, feeling an inexplicable connection to this man across the vast expanse of time. He had risked everything to do what was right. He had hidden the evidence, clinging to the hope that someone someday would find it, would expose the truth. He'd left the gold coin cash as insurance, perhaps, or as a form of payment for the person who would finally tell his story, who would breathe life back into his memory. In early March, 8 months after Maria had first stumbled upon the hidden compartment, the legal clearances finally materialized, a hard-won victory. A carefully assembled team of archaeologists, historians, legal observers, and media representatives converged on the Henderson property, along with Maria, Rebecca, Dorothy, and Sophia. Using ground-penetrating radar, they pinpointed the precise location of metal objects buried at the exact coordinates Thomas had meticulously recorded. The dig commenced, a slow, painstaking process, archaeologically documenting every layer of earth. 6 feet down, their shovels struck something solid. A large metal box, heavily corroded by the passage of time but remarkably intact. Inside, nestled within layers of oilcloth that had partially disintegrated, were not coins, but bars, actual bullion bars, each stamped with the unmistakable seal of the Union Pacific and an antique date. The archaeologists counted them with meticulous care. 34 bars, each weighing 25 ounces, a total of 850 ounces of gold, slightly more than Washington's original estimate. At current market prices, the stash was worth a staggering $1.7 million. The legal determination took another 3 months, an agonizing period of waiting. But the conclusion, when it finally arrived, was unequivocal. The gold had been stolen from the Union Pacific Railway, but Union Pacific no longer existed as that specific entity, having been absorbed and reorganized countless times over the decades. The current corporate successor, a vast conglomerate, declined to pursue any claim, citing the age and complexity of the matter, the legal quagmire it represented. Under Nevada's antiquated treasure trove law, the gold belonged to the property owner where it was discovered. The Henderson estate, after being presented with the overwhelming evidence and confronted with the daunting legal implications, agreed to a settlement. 70% to Maria as the finder who had provided the key, the treasure map, and 30% to the estate. Maria's share came to a life-altering $19 million. But the money, while transformative, wasn't the only treasure Maria had unearthed. Thomas Washington's story was finally being told, amplified by the relentless drumbeat of the media. The Nevada State Museum dedicated a permanent exhibit to his courage, a fitting tribute featuring his letter, his haunting photographs, and his meticulous documentation of the theft. His name was cleared, his heroism recognized, and his descendants, located after a painstaking genealogical search, attended a moving ceremony honoring his memory, their faces etched with pride and gratitude. 1 year after Maria had purchased a $500 train car to stave off homelessness, she stood before a hushed crowd at the museum's dedication ceremony, her voice filled with emotion. Sophia sat in the front row, resplendent in a dress Dorothy had purchased for the occasion, her eyes shining with pride. Thomas Washington left his evidence in a hidden compartment, Maria said, her voice steady but thick with emotion, hoping that someone would find it and tell the truth. I found it because I was desperate, because I needed a place to live, and a train car was all I could afford. I think Thomas would have liked that. The train car that was his workplace, his livelihood, but his pride, became a sanctuary for another desperate person 87 years later. She turned to face Thomas Washington's photograph, enlarged and displayed prominently for all to see. He was a hero not because he was fearless, but because he did the right thing even when it was fraught with peril, even when it demanded everything he possessed. His narrative deserved immortality, and I felt deeply privileged to be the vessel through which it finally reached the world. The applause echoed like thunder, a tidal wave of gratitude engulfing her. Nestled within the throng were the descendants of Thomas Washington, 3 great-grandchildren drawn from disparate corners of the nation to pay homage to the ancestor they had never met, yet who had demonstrated such breathtaking courage. Following the ceremony, Maria and Sophia retreated to their train car, now a luminous beacon against the stark desert canvas. She had invested wisely, revitalizing the space while reverently preserving its inherent soul. The bench seats, worn smooth by generations, the vaulted ceiling that whispered of journeys past, the porter's alcove with its now legendary hidden compartment, all remained untouched, a living testament to the car's vibrant history. That compartment, once a vault of secrets, now stood empty, its mysteries unveiled. Yet, Maria had introduced a new element, a tribute to the man who had irrevocably shaped their destinies. A framed reproduction of Thomas Washington's letter held a place of honor on the wall, its poignant words readily accessible to all who entered. Beneath it, she had affixed a petite brass plaque, eternally gleaming. Asterisk in memory of Thomas Washington, 1894 to 1938. Porter, hero, truth-teller. This train car was his workplace and his witness. May his courage never be forgotten. Sophia joined her mother, her gaze reverently fixed on the inscription. Mama, do you think Mr. Thomas knows we found his treasure? Maria embraced her daughter, drawing her close. I believe he does, baby. I think he's been waiting an eternity for someone to unearth it, for someone to tell his story to the world. I'm so glad it was us. Me too, Mama. Me too. That evening, after Sophia had succumbed to slumber, Maria sat on the train car steps, her eyes lifted to the breathtaking tapestry of desert stars. The land that stretched around her was now hers, secured with the gold coins from Thomas's box, a tangible symbol of their newfound security. The train car stood fully restored, a resilient and enduring home. Sophia's college fund was established, an invitation to a future radiant with possibilities. Their future was no longer shadowed by anxiety but illuminated by boundless potential. Yet, beyond the financial windfall, Maria had gained something immeasurably more profound. She had inherited a story, a bond with a man she'd never met, but who had fearlessly championed justice. A potent reminder that even within the most desperate circumstances, extraordinary discoveries can bloom. Thomas Washington had meticulously concealed his evidence, clinging to the hope that truth would ultimately prevail. He had entrusted his map, placing his faith in the future, in the hands of someone who would eventually unearth the truth. And Maria Chun, a single mother driven by desperation to purchase a dilapidated $500 train car to shield her daughter, had become that person, arriving at the right place at precisely the right moment. The train car had rescued them from the abyss of homelessness. Thomas's treasure had granted them financial stability, but his story had bequeathed them something even more invaluable, a legacy of courage to carry forward, a beacon of hope to navigate life's inevitable tempests. Maria's thoughts drifted back to the eviction notice that had set their odyssey in motion, that ominous sheet of paper emblazoned with red ink and a 30-day deadline. It had felt like the end of everything, a crushing weight of despair. Instead, it had served as the genesis, the catalyst for an extraordinary adventure that had led her to a forgotten train car, to a hidden compartment, to a truth that had patiently waited 87 years to be revealed. She raised her gaze to the stars, the same celestial bodies Thomas Washington had undoubtedly admired on those nights when he rode those rails, carrying passengers and their dreams across the vast American landscape. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rustling sagebrush. Thank you for entrusting your story to us. Thank you for believing that someone would arrive, someone desperate enough, brave enough to seek the truth in the hidden places. A gentle breeze swept across the desert, carrying the scent of wildflowers and the murmur of secrets carried on the wind. In that moment, Maria could almost perceive Thomas's silent approval, his palpable relief that after decades of silence, the truth had finally emerged, his honor vindicated. The train car stood resilient and permanent on its tracks, its destination no longer a physical location but the realm of history, having completed its most important journey. From workplace to witness to sanctuary to treasure keeper, it had fulfilled its purpose. Now, entrusted to Maria and Sophia Chun, it would continue its service, a home built on the bedrock of one man's courage and another woman's unwavering hope. Some treasures are measured in gold, in monetary worth, in financial security. Others are gauged by the stories they inspire, by the injustices they redress, by the enduring connections they forge across time between strangers united by unwavering values, truth, courage, and the relentless pursuit of what is right, regardless of the cost. Maria had unearthed both kinds of treasure within the confines of a $500 train car, and in doing so, she had affirmed Thomas Washington's long-held belief that one person's stand for truth could resonate through the ages, that courage never truly dies, and that sometimes, the most unlikely sanctuaries hold the most extraordinary secrets. The stars continued their ancient dance overhead as Maria turned and stepped inside, closing the heavy door of the train car that had forever transformed her life. Tomorrow held new adventures, new challenges, new joys. But tonight, within this humble sanctuary that had sheltered them in their desperation and bravery, mother and daughter rested, secure in the knowledge that they were precisely where they were destined to be. And somewhere, in whatever realm of peace the departed find, Thomas Washington finally found solace, too. His story told, his courage celebrated, his faith in humanity's essential goodness finally justified. 2 years had elapsed since the discovery that had irrevocably changed the course of their lives. Maria stood in the doorway of the train car, watching the sunrise bathe the Nevada desert in breathtaking hues of gold and amber. The familiar landscape had become more than just a scenic backdrop. It was home, a place where she felt deeply rooted and connected. The train car was almost unrecognizable from the rusty relic she had acquired for a mere $500. Painstaking professional restoration had preserved its historical authenticity while introducing modern comforts and amenities. The exterior gleamed with fresh paint in the original Union Pacific colors, a deep, rich blue accented by elegant gold trim. The windows were meticulously crafted reproductions, faithfully mirroring the originals. The brass fixtures, once tarnished and dull, now radiated a warm, inviting glow. Inside, the transformation was even more striking. The bench seats remained, lovingly restored to their former glory, reupholstered in new leather that echoed the original burgundy hue. However, they were now complemented by custom-made cushions, hand-woven by a local artisan in patterns that celebrated both the train's heritage and Maria's own Mexican roots. The porter's area had been artfully transformed into a modern, fully equipped galley kitchen, complete with stainless steel appliances seamlessly concealed behind wood panels that mirrored the original cabinetry. A small but efficient bathroom occupied an extension at one end, its design seamlessly integrated with the historic structure. Yet, Maria had adamantly insisted on preserving one element of the train car exactly as it had been, the hidden compartment. The brass button, worn smooth by countless touches, remained in its original position, and the secret panel still swung open on its concealed hinges, revealing the space where Thomas Washington had entrusted his secrets. Now, instead of Thomas Washington's original evidence, the compartment housed items that Maria had meticulously curated, a testament to their journey. Copies of the original documents, high-quality prints of the photos documenting the gold discovery, and heartfelt letters from Thomas's descendants, expressing their profound gratitude for her role in revealing their ancestors' true story. She had also added a personal touch, a journal chronicling her family's journey from despair to security, from homelessness to homeownership, from uncertainty to unwavering purpose. Perhaps, decades from now, someone else might stumble upon this hidden space and discover that the train car story hadn't concluded in 1938. It had continued, evolving with each individual who had found refuge within its walls, each life touched by its unique magic. "Mama, are you ready? We're going to be late." Sophia's voice echoed from outside, her youthful exuberance filling the air. Maria smiled, her face reflecting genuine contentment. She grabbed her keys and stepped out into the sunshine. Today was a momentous occasion, the culmination of months of planning and dedicated work. Today marked the inauguration of the Thomas Washington Scholarship Fund, an initiative generously funded by a portion of the treasure money, a concrete gesture to honor his legacy by investing in education and opportunity. The fund would provide full college scholarships to deserving descendants of Pullman porters and other railway workers, offering them a chance to pursue their dreams, just as Thomas had undoubtedly envisioned for himself. Sophia, now 8 years old, had flourished in their desert home, transforming into a confident and articulate young girl. She had become a local celebrity, known as the little girl who resided in the famous treasure train car. Her third-grade class had embarked on multiple field trips to the museum exhibit, and Sophia beamed with pride as she shared her knowledge of Mr. Thomas, as she affectionately called him, with her classmates. As they drove towards Reno, the site of the scholarship ceremony, Sophia engaged in non-stop chatter about school, her best friend Emma, and the captivating science project she was currently immersed in, a detailed exploration of desert ecosystems. Maria listened, warmth enveloping her as she marveled at the profound changes that had occurred in such a short span of time. Just 2 years prior, Sophia had been withdrawn and anxious, acutely sensing her mother's desperation, even as Maria endeavored to shield her from the harsh realities of their situation. Now she thrived, secure in the knowledge that they possessed a home, that they were safe, and that the future held promise instead of fear. The scholarship ceremony unfolded within the grand auditorium of the University of Nevada's main campus. Maria had never imagined that she would find herself on such a stage, standing before hundreds of people, presenting awards that would undoubtedly transform young lives in the same remarkable way that her own had been transformed. 5 outstanding students had been selected as the inaugural recipients of the Thomas Washington Scholarships. Each was a descendant of railway workers. Each had demonstrated exceptional academic achievement, despite significant financial hardship, and each embodied the indomitable spirit and legacy of individuals like Thomas, who had worked tirelessly behind the scenes to propel America forward. The first recipient, Jasmine Wright, whose great-great-grandfather had been a Pullman porter on the very same City of Los Angeles line where Thomas had been employed. Jasmine aspired to study civil engineering, fueled by an unwavering desire to design the transportation infrastructure of the future, to construct a more interconnected and equitable world. As Maria presented Jasmine with her scholarship certificate, the young woman leaned in and whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you. My entire family thanks you. Knowing that great-great-grandpa Elijah's work is being honored in this way, it means everything." Maria felt tears welling in her eyes, a wave of gratitude and humility washing over her. This was the true purpose of the treasure, not solely to secure her own family's future, but to honor the past, uplift others, and invest in the potential of what was yet to come. Following the ceremony, a celebratory reception was held in the university's main hall. Maria found herself surrounded by well-wishers, reporters still fascinated by the story, historians eager to delve deeper into the era, and descendants of railway workers, all expressing their heartfelt appreciation for bringing attention to their ancestors' often overlooked contributions. Yet, it was an elderly man standing quietly in the corner who truly captured Maria's attention. He stood alone, his gaze intently fixed on a display of photographs from the train car discovery. The depth of emotion etched on his weathered face compelled Maria to approach him. "Hello, I'm Maria Chun." The man turned, and Maria saw tears streaming down his cheeks. I know who you are. You're the woman who found my uncle's truth. Maria's breath caught in her throat. Your uncle? Thomas Washington was my mother's brother. I'm Samuel Washington. I was born in 1940, 2 years after Uncle Thomas disappeared. My mother, his sister Sarah, never stopped looking for him. Never stopped believing that he was innocent of the theft they accused him of. Samuel's voice cracked, his emotions raw and palpable. She died in 1995, never knowing the truth, never knowing that her brother was a hero. Maria took his hand, her touch gentle and comforting. I'm so sorry, but she never gave up believing in him. That matters. That love across all those years, that unwavering faith in his character, that matters more than anything. Samuel reached into a worn leather wallet and extracted a small, faded photograph. It depicted 2 children, a young boy and a girl, standing proudly in front of a simple wooden house, their faces radiating innocence and joy. That's Uncle Thomas and my mother, taken in 1910. After he disappeared, Mama kept this photo by her bedside until the day she died. She used to tell me stories about him, about how kind he was, how he always helped people, how he wouldn't hurt a fly. She was right about him, Maria said softly, her voice filled with conviction. Everything your mother believed was true. Thomas was exactly the man she remembered. Kind, brave, and dedicated to doing what was right, no matter the consequences. I have something for you, Samuel said, his voice regaining a measure of composure. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet bag, its fabric worn soft with age. After Mama died, I inherited her things. Among them was this. Uncle Thomas gave it to her for her birthday in 1937, just months before he vanished. He carefully opened the bag and poured its contents into Maria's outstretched palm. It was a locket, fashioned from delicate gold, and engraved with a simple yet elegant pattern of railroad tracks stretching towards a distant horizon. Inside was a tiny photograph of Thomas in his porter's uniform, his face etched with quiet dignity, and an inscription to Sarah. Asterisk to Sarah, with love from your brother Thomas. May your path always lead to better destinations. I want you to have this, Samuel said, his eyes filled with emotion. You gave my uncle his dignity back. You told the world he was a hero. This should be part of his story, part of the exhibit. Maria's throat tightened, and she struggled to find the right words. Are you sure? This is a family heirloom, and you're part of our family now. Anyone who fights for Thomas's memory the way you have is family. Samuel gently closed her fingers around the locket. Besides, Uncle Thomas would want it to be where his story is told. At the museum, in the train car, wherever people can see that he wasn't just a thief who disappeared. He was a brother, an uncle, a good man. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert landscape, Maria and Sophia returned to the train car. Dorothy was already there, sitting in her favorite chair, the one she'd brought over the first week they'd moved in and had never taken back home. At 80 years old, Dorothy had become more frail, her steps slower, her voice a little weaker, but her spirit remained as sharp and vibrant as ever. She spent most days at Maria's property now, claiming that the desert air was better here than at her own place, that the quiet solitude soothed her soul, though everyone knew she simply wanted to be near Sophia, the granddaughter she'd never had, the light that had filled her life with renewed purpose. How was the ceremony? Dorothy asked, her voice warm and welcoming as Sophia ran to hug her, showering her with affection. It was amazing. Mama gave away so much money for college. And there was this man whose uncle was Mr. Thomas's nephew. No, wait, Mr. Thomas was his uncle, I think. Sophia's explanation was tangled, her youthful exuberance making the details somewhat confusing, but her excitement was palpable. Maria sat down beside Dorothy and showed her the locket, its golden surface reflecting the last rays of the setting sun. Samuel Washington, Thomas's nephew, gave me this. It belonged to Thomas's sister, Sarah. Dorothy held the locket carefully, her wrinkled fingers tracing the delicate engraving. Thomas Washington keeps giving even now, first his evidence, then his treasure, and now this. His spirit just keeps on giving. The treasure wasn't the gold. It was etched into the tapestry of her family's memories. Maria lifted her gaze to Dorothy, a question lingering in her eyes. You know, Harold, my late husband, used to say. Dorothy began, her voice tinged with fondness. He said this train car had a purpose, that it was waiting for the right person. Looks like he was right. She paused, a gentle smile gracing her lips. Maria settled onto the worn steps, the wood smooth beneath her touch. I used to think I bought this train car, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. Now I think maybe it bought me, or found me, or something like it was waiting. Maybe it was, Dorothy said, her eyes twinkling with a hint of whimsy. Harold, Maria remembered, had always held a certain reverence for objects, believing they could retain intentions, especially those that had witnessed the passage of time. This train carried dreams across the country for years, Maria mused. Then it held Thomas's evidence for 8 decades. Now it's holding your family. Maybe that's what it does. Holds hope for whoever needs it most. Sophia, having retreated inside, was now changing out of her formal attire. Through the window, Maria watched her daughter move through the train car with an ease that belied its unconventional nature. This unusual dwelling had become as natural to her as any traditional house. Maria turned back to Dorothy, a question weighing on her mind. Dorothy, can I ask you something? When you sold me this train car, did you know? Did you have any idea what might be hidden inside? Dorothy fell silent, her gaze drifting towards the horizon. Harold used to say there was something special about it. He'd measured the interior dimensions once and told me they didn't quite match the exterior. Said there had to be hidden spaces, but he never found them. And after a while he stopped looking. A warm smile touched her face. But before he died, he made me promise something. He said when I sold it, and he knew I would eventually sell it to someone who really needed it, not someone who wanted a novelty or a restoration project. Someone desperate enough to look beyond the rust and see the possibility. Maria felt a prickling sensation on her arms. You knew I was desperate. I knew you needed it, Dorothy corrected gently. There's a difference. Lots of people are desperate. But you needed this specific salvation. You needed a home you could afford. You needed a fresh start. You needed. Dorothy gestured around them, encompassing the vast expanse of the desert, the sense of boundless space, the profound quiet. All of this, the desert, the space, the quiet. You needed what this place could give you, and Harold knew someone would. Harold believed that places and things found their right people, that nothing happens by accident. Dorothy's eyes twinkled again. Of course, even he didn't imagine it would lead to million-dollar treasure and museum exhibits. He just thought maybe someone would love the old train car the way he once did. Later that night, after Sophia had drifted off to sleep, Maria found herself in the restored porter's area, the dim light casting long shadows. The hidden compartment lay open beside her, revealing its secrets once more. With deliberate care, she placed Samuel's locket inside, nestling it alongside the copies of Thomas's documents. Then, she retrieved her own worn journal and began to write. May 15th, 2 years and 11 months since I bought this train car for $500. Today I met Samuel Washington, Thomas's nephew, and he gave me Thomas's sister's locket. I placed it in the hidden compartment, adding another piece to this place's history. I've been thinking about what Dorothy said about Harold believing things find their right people. When I saw that classified ad, I was so desperate, I would have considered anything. But I picked this ad, this specific train car. Out of all the possible options, I called Dorothy. I drove to Nevada. I said yes to something that seemed crazy. Was that coincidence, or was there something about this place calling to me? I don't know if I believe in destiny or fate, but I believe in connection. I believe that Thomas Washington's courage created a ripple that moved through time. He hid his evidence, hoping someone would find it. Someone who would care. Someone who would tell his story. And 87 years later, that someone was me. A desperate single mother who needed a home and found a purpose. Who needed shelter and found a legacy. Who needed hope and found it hidden in a secret compartment built by a man I never met, but now carry with me always. Sophia asked me tonight if I think Mr. Thomas knows what happened. If he knows his treasure was found, his story told, his name cleared. I told her I believe he does. I believe he's been watching all along, waiting for the right moment, the right person. Maybe that's magical thinking. Maybe it's just comfort in the face of randomness. But when I stand in this train car, when I touch the walls Thomas touched, when I look at his photograph and see the kindness in his eyes, I feel connected to something larger than myself. This train car has been a workplace, a witness, a hiding place, a home. It's held Porter's dreams and stolen gold, evidence and secrets, desperation and hope. And now it holds us, my daughter and me, carrying forward the story of everyone who believed this place mattered. Harold was right. Things do find their right people. And I was the right person for this train car at exactly the right time. Not just because I found the treasure, but because I understood what it meant, because I honored Thomas, because I used what I found to create something that lasts beyond money. The scholarship fund will help hundreds of students over the years. The museum exhibit will teach thousands of people about courage and justice. And this train car will stand here solid and true, reminding everyone who sees it that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, that desperate circumstances can lead to unexpected destinations, that what looks like an ending might actually be a beginning, that sometimes a $500 train car is worth more than $1 million mansion because it comes with a story that changes everything. I came here to survive. But I found something better. I found purpose. I found community. I found star. A legacy to protect, a torch to pass. And in that dusty train car, I found not just shelter, but a sanctuary that resonated within my very soul. A place I could finally call home. Thank you, Thomas Washington, for your extraordinary bravery. Thank you for concealing the evidence that could have exonerated you in your time, choosing instead to safeguard it for a future you may never have envisioned. Thank you for crafting a map, both literal and metaphorical, leading to a treasure far greater than gold. Thank you for believing that someone, someday, would come along, someone who would care enough to listen, someone who would champion your cause, someone who would ensure your story didn't vanish into the annals of forgotten history. That someone, against all odds, was me. And I pledge to you now, Thomas, as long as I draw breath, as long as Sophia walks this earth, as long as anyone cherishes the spirit of this train car, your story will be told. Your heroism will be celebrated. Your sacrifice will be honored with the weight it deserves. You entrusted me with a treasure beyond measure. I, in turn, offer you immortality through remembrance. Feels like a just exchange. With eternal gratitude and profound respect. Maria Chin. She carefully closed the worn journal, each page imbued with the weight of history and the burgeoning seed of hope. The stories contained within were a sacred trust. Returning it to its hidden alcove behind the panel, Maria secured these fragile memories, safeguarding them for whatever uncertain future lay ahead. The brass button clicked softly as the panel swung shut, concealing its precious contents once more. 3 months drifted by, the lazy days of summer slowly giving way to the first whispers of autumn. A phone call arrived, an unexpected overture that would add yet another vibrant chapter to the train car's ever-evolving narrative. It was a film production company hailing from the sun-drenched landscape of Los Angeles. They were captivated by the story of Thomas Washington, the alleged gold heist, and Maria's remarkable discovery. We're not interested in sensationalizing the story, the producer, a woman with a voice as crisp and professional as her name, Lisa Chan, assured her. We want to uncover the truth, the real story. Lisa elaborated that the documentary would center on Thomas's unwavering courage, the blatant injustice he endured, and the eventual unveiling of the evidence he'd so carefully hidden for decades. We'd love to interview you, of course, film on location at the train car and the museum, and speak with Thomas's descendants. We want to truly honor the legacy. Maria hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Life had finally settled into a comfortable, predictable rhythm. Sophia was thriving in school, her laughter echoing through the train car. Maria's work at the hospital provided a deep sense of fulfillment, a way to give back to the community that had embraced them. The scholarship fund was flourishing, supporting bright young minds in pursuit of their dreams. Did they truly need to invite the chaos and potential disruption that a documentary inevitably entailed? But then, Thomas's face flashed in her mind, his determined gaze in that faded photograph, his unwavering commitment to exposing the truth, the immense personal risk he'd undertaken, the unjust cloud under which he had died, his story unfairly silenced by time. If a documentary could amplify his story, sharing it with millions, how could she possibly refuse? I need time to consider, Maria responded, her voice carefully measured, and I need to consult with Thomas's family. This story belongs to them as much as it does to me. She reached out to Samuel Washington, who responded with unbridled enthusiasm. Uncle Thomas's story deserves to be shouted from the rooftops. A documentary would be absolutely wonderful. She also confided in Rebecca, Dorothy's daughter, who would become a cherished friend and trusted confidant. Rebecca, with her keen legal mind, meticulously scrutinized the production company's credentials and the proposed contract, ensuring everything was above board and equitable. Finally, she turned to Sophia, her daughter's prospective paramount. How would you feel about having cameras here? About people making a movie about Mr. Thomas and our train car? Sophia pondered the question, her brow furrowed in deep concentration. Will they tell the truth, Mama? Will they make Mr. Thomas look like the hero he was? Yes, baby, Maria reassured her. That's exactly what they want to do. Sophia's face cleared, her decision made. Then we should let them, she declared with unwavering conviction. Because Mr. Thomas's story is important. Kids should know that one person doing the right thing can matter, even if it takes a really, really long time. From the mouth of an 8-year-old flowed a profound wisdom that humbled Maria. Of course, they had to proceed. Thomas's story deserved the widest possible audience. The documentary filming unfolded over 3 weeks, interspersed across several months to accommodate schedules and seasonal changes. The production team approached the project with the utmost respect and diligence, conducting extensive interviews with Maria, Sophia, Dorothy, Samuel Washington, esteemed historians specializing in the Pullman porters, and other descendants of railway workers. They meticulously filmed the train car, capturing its every creak in detail, as well as the museum exhibit and the long-concealed site where the gold had been buried. The most emotionally charged day, however, arrived when they introduced a historical reenactor to portray Thomas Washington. The actor, a distinguished middle-aged black man named James Morrison, had completely immersed himself in Thomas's life. He'd pored over photographs, researched every available document, and approached the role with profound reverence. When Maria first saw James in Thomas's porter uniform, standing beside the train car in a pose eerily reminiscent of the iconic 1936 photograph, she was overwhelmed with a wave of emotion so powerful it brought her to her knees. Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision. It was as if Thomas himself had been resurrected, granted a fleeting moment to return to the world of the living. Thank you, she managed to whisper to James, her voice thick with emotion. Thank you for honoring him in this way. James offered a gentle smile, his eyes brimming with understanding. My own grandfather was a Pullman porter. I grew up listening to his stories of dignity in the face of hardship, stories of backbreaking work, stories of the insidious discrimination they faced every single day. To have the opportunity to portray Thomas Washington, to help tell his story, is a tremendous honor. He represents countless men whose names we'll never know, whose sacrifices were never recognized. 9 months later, The Porter's Truth, Thomas Washington's 87-year journey to justice premiered at the prestigious Sundance Film Festival. Maria, Sophia, Dorothy, and Samuel Washington attended the premiere together, a united front against the past injustices, sitting side by side in a packed theater, witnessing Thomas's story unfold on the big screen. The film was a beautifully woven tapestry, seamlessly blending the historical context of the Pullman porters and the broader narrative of railway history with Thomas's deeply personal journey. It didn't shy away from the pervasive racism he encountered, the precarious situation of a black man daring to accuse a wealthy white executive, the chilling possibility that he was murdered to silence him. But it also celebrated his unwavering courage, his meticulous documentation, his indomitable hope that the truth would ultimately prevail. And it honored Maria's pivotal role in finally unearthing that truth, illustrating how a desperate mother's need for shelter had become the key to unlocking an 87-year-old mystery. As the lights slowly illuminated the theater at the end of the film, an emotional silence filled the space, broken only by the muffled sounds of quiet sobs. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. The standing ovation lasted a full 5 minutes, a powerful testament to the film's profound impact on the audience. Critics immediately hailed it as a masterpiece of historical documentary filmmaking. It went on to win awards at numerous film festivals and was subsequently acquired by a major streaming platform for global distribution. Suddenly, Thomas Washington's story resonated with millions of people across the world. The train car transformed into a pilgrimage site for individuals inspired by his unwavering courage. The museum exhibit had to be significantly expanded to accommodate the surge in visitors. And the scholarship fund received donations from every corner of the country, enabling them to support an even greater number of deserving students. But the most profoundly touching responses came in the form of letters, hundreds upon hundreds of them, pouring in from all over the globe. Letters from descendants of railway workers who had never known that their ancestors' stories mattered. Letters from individuals grappling with their own ethical dilemmas, finding strength and inspiration in Thomas's unwavering commitment to doing what was right, regardless of the personal cost. Letters from children who now understood that ordinary people could indeed be heroes. Maria meticulously preserved every single letter, storing them in the train car's lovingly restored cabinets. They were now an integral part of the legacy, tangible proof that Thomas's story continued to ripple outward, touching lives, igniting courage, and inspiring change. One letter, in particular, struck a deep chord within Maria's heart. It came from a woman in Chicago named Patricia Johnson, and it began, "My great-grandfather worked alongside Thomas Washington on the City of Los Angeles line. His name was William Johnson and he was also a porter. I'm writing because my great-grandfather left behind a diary that mentions Thomas, and I thought you'd want to know what it says." Patricia's letter included carefully made copies of pages from William Johnson's diary, dated April and May of 1938. The entries corroborated everything that Thomas had documented in his own meticulous account. William had been aware of Thomas's discovery of the gold theft, had encouraged him to report it to the authorities, and had witnessed the events as they unfolded. When Thomas was unjustly accused of the crime, William wrote, "Thomas is innocent. I know this with absolute certainty. He is the most honest man I know. But they will never believe a Negro porter over a wealthy white executive. Thomas understands this. He told me today that he is gathering proof. He said he won't allow them to destroy his reputation without a fight. I pray he succeeds, but I fear for him." The final entry, dated May 20th, 1938, was chilling in its stark simplicity. "Thomas has disappeared. The company says he ran away, proving his guilt. But I know better. Thomas Washington did not run. Whatever happened to him, I know in my heart that he died fighting for the truth. I only pray that someday, somehow, his name will be cleared." Maria immediately added Patricia's letter and William Johnson's diary entries to the museum exhibit. Yet another piece of the complex puzzle, another voice from the past, validating Thomas's character and unwavering courage. As summer gently yielded to the embrace of fall, Maria found herself once again standing in the doorway of the train car, gazing out at the mesmerizing hues of the desert sunset. 3 years had passed since she had stumbled upon the hidden compartment. 3 years since her life had been transformed from a state of quiet desperation to one filled with profound purpose. The train car remained her home, but it had evolved into something far grander. A monument, a memory, a timeless message, a testament to the enduring power of courage, the unwavering resilience of truth, and the ripple effect of one person's commitment to doing what is right. Sophia emerged from inside the train car, carefully carrying 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate. At the age of 8, she had become Maria's steadfast partner in preserving Thomas's legacy, understanding at a level far beyond her years that they were the custodians of something truly precious. "Mama," Sophia said, handing Maria a mug and settling down beside her on the steps. "My teacher asked me today what I want to be when I grow up." "What did you say?" Maria asked, her voice filled with anticipation. "I said I want to be like Mr. Thomas. I want to be brave enough to do what's right even when it's hard. Even when people might not believe me, even when it costs me something." Sophia looked up at Maria, her eyes searching for approval. "Is that a good answer?" Maria pulled her daughter close, tears welling up in her eyes. "That's the best answer in the world, baby. The very best." They sat together in the gathering darkness, mother and daughter, cocooned within the walls that had borne witness to history and miracles. Inside the train car's hidden compartment, Thomas Washington's story lay dormant, alongside Maria's journal, awaiting whatever future chapters might unfold. The train car had been designed to transport people toward their destinations. Thomas had utilized it to safeguard the truth. Maria had found within it a beacon of hope, and Sophia would carry its enduring legacy forward, guided by the example of a man she had never met. As the Nevada stars emerged, brilliant against the darkening sky, Maria found solace in imagining Thomas Washington looking down upon them, finally at peace, knowing that his story had been told, his name cleared, and his courage had inspired generations yet unborn. The true treasure had never been the gold itself. It had been this, the connection across time, the proof that one person's actions can have a profound impact, the legacy that could transform desperation into hope and survival into purpose. Maria had initially purchased a $500 train car merely to prevent her daughter from becoming homeless. Instead, she had found a home that transcended the limitations of walls and wheels, a home constructed from stories and courage, from justice delayed but ultimately delivered, from the unwavering certainty that truth, like gold, never tarnishes with time. It simply awaits discovery.